So that caution is to set realistic expectations. Use it more as inspiration because you're looking at it more, this is the style, this is the feel that I want to bring. Thank you all for coming. Welcome to my WED talk on It's All in the Details, how to get that Pinterest perfect wedding. So I'm going to start off by asking a question. Who here is a bride? Do you have a Pinterest board for your wedding? You do. All right. Which is pretty normal, considering the fact that there's 900 million pins that are wedding related every year done on Pinterest. Pinterest is a fantastic resource for us to be able to plan our weddings. It's an excellent source of inspiration from everything from your makeup, your dress, your arrangements for your florals, your cake, food, and most importantly, in my opinion, your design and decor. But I do want to give you a word of caution because Pinterest can be a little bit of a trap. So that caution is to set realistic expectations. Something that many people do not know is that a lot of those pins are staged and styled pins. There are people like myself and numerous other vendors that come together that have a lot of resources at our disposal. We create looks. They're photographed beautifully by professional photographers, and they're specifically to create content to let you all know what we can do at our best. We do not have the restrictions that a budget would have, like a bride would have. And so those expectations need to be set that when you're looking at these things and you're like, oh my gosh, that's over the top, it's probably staged. So set realistic expectations. For instance, if you look at this picture on the right, it's a beautiful photo. I see a lot of these similar, really extravagant looks come across my Instagram feed. And I just, wow, they're so pretty. But then when you give that picture to your florist and your wedding designer, and you say, hey, I love this look and I want this exact look, use it more as inspiration because you're looking at it more, this is the style, this is the feel that I want to bring, and you're going to pick components out of that that's going to give you the same effect. So if you look at the other pin, the other picture, that's realistic. You have the same look, you have the same feel, and it's affordable to a lot of people's budgets. So Pinterest can also create a lot of overwhelm. How many of you have been pinning for years? Years, okay? First question that I give every bride, do you have a Pinterest board? And they're gonna say yes, and I say, will you share it with me? And I can't tell you how many times there's pins that go back. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pins that go back to the mason jar era, okay? So we're way past the mason jar era. So the important part is that you prioritize those pins because if you open a page for your wedding design and what you want, and you're seeing pins from 5 years ago, those pins may not be relevant to you today because at this point, we've progressed forward and the styles have changed and your likes and your interests have changed because we're human and we change. And so prioritize your pins by those interests and by your budget. So when I talk about the budget and the interest, what is the biggest priority for your wedding? Is it your ceremony area? Is it your guest tables? Is it your dessert table? What is the priority? And then prioritize those. And so you're going to create a board and you're going to put the things that have the most importance to you first, okay? And you're going to trickle it down into things that have the least importance to you. So this is applicable not just for the design part. I'm going to talk about the design part because that's what I do, but you want to do that with all of the areas, all the way down to, do you want little guest favors, okay? and get rid of all those old mason jar pins. Like, be done with it, all right? There's lots of updated things. So sort through, do I love this? If you don't love it, get rid of it, okay? You don't need to clutter up your planning, okay? The next thing you need to do with those boards is you need to share them with your vendors. Because who here, give me a definition, you're a bride. Give me a definition, give me one word of a look that you want for your wedding. Boho. What about you? Those were two words I knew was going to come up today. Hands down. So when you tell me that, simple, what does it mean to me? It doesn't mean the same thing to me that it does to you. Or you said simple. Boho, there's 500 kinds of boho. Because boho just means eclectic. So is it romantic boho, natural boho, farmhouse boho, hippie boho, okay? So when you are sharing your Pinterest board with me, I can dive into your mind. I can look through and I can find a pattern that I can then connect those dots up so that I can help you decide what you're really wanting. Because without that, it's just, who knows? There's 5 zillion types of simple. It doesn't specify anything to me. So by sharing those boards, whether it be with the person helping you with your decor, whether it be your cake person, your florist, your hair makeup, it's going to help them have clearer idea of what it is that you want so that they can help create your dream wedding, all right? The other little tip I'm going to give, because a lot of people do not know this, on Pinterest, on your pins, there's a place to make a note. Use it, because when you first see it, you're going to have an immediate impression. What was your impression of that? If it's a sweetheart table, was it the flowers on it? Was it the way that the tablecloth was? You may not remember when you get down the road. And if I am going through your Pinterest board and I see all of these pins and they connect and there's one that's really random, I'm going to say, what was it about that you liked? And you may have forgotten. So put those little notes in there. It's beneficial for you. It's beneficial for your vendors. Now that we've talked about how to use Pinterest and how not to use Pinterest, we're going to talk about the areas of focus that you might want to think about for your wedding regarding design. So the first one is going to be the entryway. The entryway is what welcomes everybody. You want to give them a nice, good welcome. It also sets the tone. So if you're doing boho, you might bring some boho elements in. If you're doing rustic, you might bring some rustic elements in. But it sets the tone. The other thing it does is it spotlights the couple. I don't know if everybody uses it this way. I use it this way. I think it's important. It's about the couple. So we're going to start out in the entry introducing that couple. So there's a few ways to do that. So first, you want to personalize it. So guest books are a great way to personalize it. Sometimes, let me click through all my clicks here. Sometimes it might be because you like games, and so you bring in an element such as Jenga, right? That's been a popular one this year. The one on the bottom, I don't know, that's the right. That was very personal to them because they had were on their first date, they had gotten a map of the stars at the location that first date was, and they had it made into a poster, and when he engaged, the same thing. So this was the map of the sky at the location they were married, and they had people sign that, very personalized. So there's a lot more that you can do, and they don't have to be expensive, that make it very personal to the couple, rather than a guest book that you're gonna put away and never open again. So make it personal, make it meaningful to you. As far as signs, there's a lot of ways to make a custom sign. This one here was basically a nice, pretty mirror that I had. We used vinyl. I mounted a picture on it. You can buy a pretty mirror anywhere at the thrift store. A lot of people have them hanging around. But it was really beautiful, and it went along with their theme. So I have one more tip about the welcome. Apparently I lost a slide. But put a picture of the couple. So make a nice big print It's not an expense, it's an investment. You're gonna put that on your wall. It's just beautiful, and it adds a really personalized touch to the entry. Okay, so the next things we're gonna talk about is the ceremony area. So the ceremony area, I feel that there's 3 components of that ceremony area. The first is the end of aisle. I'm not gonna talk a lot about that because of time, but it creates a presentation. That's the area that the bride is being presented, so place something there, whether it be wine barrels with florals on it, whether it be tall things of pompous grass, whether it be crates with flowers on it, something. And it also welcomes continues to welcome the guest in. The aisle, and then we have the altar. So we're gonna get into the aisle. So the aisle, from what I've observed, is the most, if not, it's pretty much the most neglected area. I see a lot of wedding pictures come through my feed. There's a lot of empty aisles. And aisles don't have to be expensive, but they welcome people in and they direct you to the altar, which is ultimately why we're all there. It is also a highly photographed area. You are gonna have a lot of pictures taken from that aisle. You're gonna have the aisle in it. And to make it more affordable, a lot of aisle decor can easily be brought over to the reception side and utilized there. So a few examples of that. So here's a few options you can go with. You could do something very simple, right? Those were just fabric that we draped down, didn't cost much, very beautiful, marked the aisle, drew the attention to the altar. This little more one here, it is a little more, but still very affordable, very simple. You've got the natural greenery, you've got the cylinder vases, and we ran it all the way down the aisle, and it was beautiful. Something like that would be hard to do in the grass. You would have to put it on some sort of a base, but still beautiful, and you could implement even just the cylinder vases by themselves, because it's beautiful. You could go more luxury, like these big flower boxes here. Those are very expensive, and it's not gonna be for them to be made out of fresh flowers, probably not in too many people's budgets, but they are beautiful and they are easily repurposed and used as well. These ones right here, they literally were picked up at the end of the ceremony and carried over to the reception area and placed around the dance floor and around the reception. So it's another piece that can easily be repurposed. So as I said, money saving tip on aisle is to repurpose them. So here you can see those aisle pieces with the cylinder vases. We had to transition from ceremony to reception in the same place. So it was when we cleared the chairs, we moved the tables in place, we picked the pieces up off of the aisle, put them on the tables, added a few personalized elements, and voila, aisle pieces becomes the centerpieces. Very affordable. So the next area of focus is the altar, and this is where it all begins. This is what it's all about. And it's very important, even if you are out in nature, and I do elopements and I'm in stunning, beautiful places, the arch does help encircle and give a frame around the couple. So we're gonna flip through a little bit here because I'm running short on time. You can also repurpose that arch. So if you see here, this arch here, we repurposed and put into their photo backdrop. This one here, we repurposed and put the cake in front of it. So the next area of focus is gonna be your reception. And I am gonna skip through your guest tables. We can talk about these a little bit. So on your guest tables, you wanna make sure that you use the lighting element. You wanna use a fabric element. You wanna use a natural element, such as floral, dried florals, greenery. You want to use a personalized element. And these are just some of the ways that we did that. So the biggest area of focus in the reception, I feel, is the sweetheart table. So anything that is about the couple should be highlighted more. And the sweetheart table is the reception's version of the altar. So make it different. You should not have the same stuff on your table that the guest tables have. You can use some of the same elements, but use them in a little bit more upgraded version. So also make it a table for two. It just looks better. It feels better. It's cozier rather than having a big, like even a 6-foot table with two people behind it looks a little awkward. So a lot of people have small tables running around. It doesn't have to be pretty topped. You could throw a linen over the top of it and dress it up. Make it a table for two. Use tons of romantic lighting, and that goes for really, you want to use lighting everywhere in your reception. But particularly at your sweetheart table, if you see here in this picture, the whole front of the table just had tons of floating candles. It was stunning. You want to keep the top of the table, the decor short. And that is because if you do not, you will be dodging the decor all night long. The photographer will be dodging the decor all night long. And it's really hard to get a good picture of the couple if there's decor in front of their face. So here's a few examples of the sweetheart table and different things you can do with it. So the cake table, dessert table, I'm just going to touch on that really quickly. It is fun. Have fun with it. Create a feast with your eyes. Create layers and stack things. Bring in some of the elements that you use throughout the rest of the reception and bring it into it. A few other areas you might want to think about is lounge area. If you want to have people to have a home-like feel, something comfy, cozy, bring in a lounge. If you want a dramatic photo op, bring in a pretty piece of photo, place it where there's beautiful, something dramatic and beautiful behind it for a photo op. You can also do a photo booth. That's been a popular one. And another thing I'm just going to touch on super quick is a memorial table of some sort. That's pretty common. We have loved ones that have passed. You don't want to make it about them, but you want to acknowledge them. And there's lots of ways to do that. And so I'm going to wrap it up here. But before I finish, I want to talk a little bit about DIYing. So DIYing is a wonderful thing. I am a DIYer. I wouldn't be doing what I was doing if I was not a DIYer. But when you DIY, prioritize. If you do not have those resources available to you, don't try to learn them for your wedding. Don't try to make fresh florals the week of your wedding. Don't try to do things that you have to do the day of your wedding. Source those out. You don't have to pay somebody to do it. You can find a family, a friend, a loved one, a neighbor, right? Make sure that family member is not your mom, unless your mom really wants to, or in your bridal party, because you will be very busy doing the things that are creating memories for that day, and you don't get those moments back. So when you are trying to create these things, it is very easy to say, I'm going to DIY it, and while I love it, pick and choose what you can realistically DIY, and then turn the rest over to other people, because you cannot get back those moments. So as I end this, I will challenge you with that question. How much of a Pinterest wedding do you want? And if you want it, DIY Pinterest, how much do you want to remember those special moments of those days of your day? Because you cannot get those back. Thank you.